Okay, we're so excited today to have on the podcast Kayla Barnes. She's a certified brain health coach, she's a biohacker, and she's the founder of the longevity clinic Live. Welcome, Kayla.
Thank you so much for having me.
I don't even know where to begin. I just have all the feels from what we talked about online. Congrats on being a newlywed.
Thank you so much. It's been, I say being married is one of the biggest biohacks I've ever done in my life because when you have someone, we know that, community and relationships are really a part of the foundational requirements for longevity and health optimization. But when you have a partner and, a spouse, you just have so much love and trust. And it's amazing because I've even been looking into your nervous systems can actually sync. So at night, when I cuddle or spend time with my husband, it's always so peaceful to me. And it really helps his nervous system, and the calmness of his nervous system really actually starts to sync with mine. And I feel such a sense of peace, and because of, security and all of those things. But
Yeah.
I really feel like being married was the one piece that I did not have in terms of biohacking.
Wait, that is the sweetest thing ever. No, it's so true with community and to feel safe and to have a partner where there's a match, and it's you think with all the human beings out on planet Earth, everyone would have matches, but it's so rare and far between to have such a connection, especially the other things we talk about. How amazingly disciplined you are with your diet and your health, and you're optimizing to have the most powerful brain you could have. So I would love to get started and talk about what I want to take it back to your youth and what kind of led you down this road of biohacking and optimal brain health and performance.
Absolutely. So I think it's kind of a misconception that I grew up super healthy or, kind of have just been following this trajectory. I mean, the truth is, I grew up on a very unhealthy diet. I mean, Reese Puffs and Pop Tarts and all, standard American diet through and through.
Literally.
So, I just like many people, I was experiencing a lot of different symptoms, brain fog, my skin wasn't as clear as I wanted it to be, some GI issues. And so when I went to college, I started studying nutrition, and I just started making very simple tweaks, right? Like changing processed foods out for whole foods and doing, maybe organic versus conventional. And I started to feel so much better. And I'm like, okay, if I can do this with just nutrition, I am a major learner. It's probably like one of the things that drives me most in life is learning and developing myself. And so I said, okay, let's really dive deeper into this and figure out what's like the maximum that I can take myself. And this is when I was like 18 years old. I was very young, but I had a lot of drive and interest in optimizing human performance even back then.
So, what was like the first aha moment that prompted you? You were obviously in school. You obviously didn't grow up. You grew up, I should say, on the standard American diet.
Yeah.
But what, I guess, was there a person, something you saw on TV, or something where you just looked inward, how you were feeling, that kind of like prompted this moment to start making these swaps in your pantry?
It really started with what I was just learning, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So like eating sugar-filled cereal for breakfast, that was a standard. Okay, no wonder why, I was diagnosed with ADHD like early on in, like, I believe it was like late middle school or early high school. Well, that's because I was living off sugar,
Yeah.
right? And of course it was difficult to focus. So I really just started to see the changes in myself through these tweaks I was learning in school. That was the initial interest. And then I really found got super interested in Dr. Hyman's books, and I was like, okay, food is medicine. And then eventually, a little later, I actually found Dr. Daniel Amen and did all of his coursework to be a certified brain health practitioner. And that changed everything for me because not only did I grow up on the standard American diet and I had to change that component of my life, but I also knew that if I wanted to become the most optimal version of myself possible, I was going to have to change the way I thought. So I didn't grow up in necessarily the most stable home either. So I really knew that I would have to not only upgrade the hardware of my brain, which we can talk about what a brain healthy diet looks like and, habits to support the hardware of your brain, but I also had to update the software of my brain, the way that I thought.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. And it never ceases to amaze me how intentional the people I interview are at the time in my life. It's my podcast, right?
Yeah.
And I'm at the phase of my healing journey where I'm starting to do all the brain stuff, all the rewirings. I too had, I should say, a very turbulent childhood. And it's true, there's a hard wiring that just comes, and people used to say you can't change it. But now studies would suggest you can through a lot of stuff we're going to end up talking about. So that's really cool that you ended up focusing on the brain. So when you took all these courses in brain work, were you thinking, okay, I'm going to be a brain coach, or were you taking it because you were severely interested in it? And what capacity, I guess, do you help people?
Yeah. So at that time, I mostly was just looking to optimize myself, if I'm being honest. I wanted to upgrade the way that I thought because I knew that there was a lot of work to be done there. And I also just wanted to continue becoming the healthiest version of myself too. So I'm like, okay, let's start with the brain because the brain controls everything.
Yeah.
It controls our level of success, the quality of our relationships. It's the most expensive real estate in the body. You cannot get a new one. And so I think thinking brain first, I know that we're very inclined as human beings and especially females to focus on the outward, how much do you weigh? What is your body composition? How do you look? But when you focus on the brain first, it makes everything else easier.
No, and it's so true. Thoughts are so powerful. Something I would love to talk to begin the conversation is, the neural pathways everyone has and habits. I would love to get into that. I know you speak a lot about people with bad habits, how to break them, how to make good habits. So let's go into that.
Absolutely. So, it's up until relatively recently, we didn't know that the brain could change or that it's plastic, that you have the ability to change the way that you think. Obviously, when you're younger, it's much easier to do that, right? The brain is much more malleable. At around the age 25, it becomes a little bit more difficult, but it's certainly still possible.
Yeah.
So it's amazing because human beings have between 70 and 80,000 thoughts per day. Most of those thoughts are from the past. So based on your experiences and emotions that are tied to those experiences, but we have the ability to be able to change the way that we think. So as an example for myself, and it sounds like you have a similar example, when you grow up and that you have to often, let's say, defend yourself or protect yourself, your brain literally, it's almost like, Google Maps where you have these streets that are very hardwired and you have to build new streets or create new pathways. So when you are experiencing a lot of stress or anxiety or negative emotions growing up, that's something that will follow you throughout your life if you don't make a really intentional effort to change it. So for me, when I started learning about the brain and attitude and mood and thoughts and behaviors, it was so exciting because I said, okay, I know that I have a negative bias, right? Because during my childhood years and my adolescence, I was always protecting myself. Also, I developed a very negative predisposition. It's almost like the brain, it's like, we have these neurons that are communicating through a synapse and that transmission dictates like everything that we do. So I knew that in order to be more positive, happier overall, happier predisposition, I had to intentionally change that. And we can talk about how do you do that. Yes. So when you want to start working on neuroplasticity, you want to really change all of your inputs. So let's say you grew up in a negative home and then you go on to watching negative news, surrounding yourself with negative people. If you have negativity about your job, you do need to start changing your inputs. That's like step one. Yep. So in the morning, I always say you can't be grateful and hateful at the same time, right? Like a gratitude practice can be extremely transformational because that's changing your disposition towards the day. And what happens, your days become weeks, become years, become your life, right? So you have to change your input. So I would stop following people on social media that make you feel sad or negative or induce anxiety. I follow very few people because I only want to follow people that make me feel better or teach me something. So we have to change our inputs. If you have a very negative partner or friends, you need to take a really hard look and be honest with yourself. Are these people reinforcing those negativity pathways, or are they helping you to develop new, more positive pathways? So first, it's like pruning out all the negative and introducing the positive. And you have to be really intentional when you're doing this, right? Another opportunity to enhance and improve your neural pathways is intentional behaviors. So we talked about gratitude. Journaling and meditating on the experiences that bring you joy is another way to do that because the pathways strengthen when you feel the emotion associated with that.
Yeah.
So when something positive happens, you really want to, stay with that and allow yourself to have feelings around it, because that's going to help to reinforce those positive pathways. And this is really it's really a process that you have to go through, and it'll be uncomfortable because when your default is negativity or sadness or low mood, it's going to be uncomfortable to get to a default of more happiness and positivity. But those are just a few of the things in terms of, you can call it a protocol to start to begin to rewire the brain for more positivity.
So I love that concept of pruning everything out. And I like also like the analogy that we're a street with or I guess we're a highway with a bunch of streets and whatever. And, you have to take a lot of work to change them. So I guess after pruning, it would seem that the next step would be to listen to your thoughts and to, I guess, see when something negative comes up. What is, I guess, like a lasting practice from pruning and noticing the thoughts, and also the practicing of gratitude every morning, which I think is super important because words are so powerful. And I like to say words are spells. But after those steps, like, what is a cohesive way to keep people, I guess, like on the wagon of changing the neural pathways? And how long does it take to build new pathways and break old ones?
An exercise that I really like, just to help essentially turn around your mood, it's called ant therapy.
Ant?
Ant, A-N-T. So it's like killing the negative thoughts, and it's a simple writing exercise where you're essentially asking yourself, so let's say a thought comes into your mind and you ask yourself, I'll use an example. You might walk into a room and say, maybe she doesn't like me. Okay, well, the first question would be, is that true? The answer is you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And probably that's not the truth. So then the second question is, can I absolutely know that's true? Well, that's usually a no, but it's these series of stories that we tell ourselves, right? So we're changing the narrative. The next question would be, who would I be without that thought? Well, I would be happier. I would be more at peace. And so by the end of the exercise, 9 times out of 10, you're going to realize that you have a concern that's not even valid. And the studies show about 90% of the negative thoughts that we have never actually come to fruition.
It's so true.
Yeah.
My gosh, that's something I would totally tell my younger self. The amount of times I would sweat over nonsense, just the idea would present itself, and I would just sit there worrying if it would happen. And guess what? It would never happen.
Yeah, and when we're ruminating on those emotions and that fear, I mean, not only does it change, it has a biological process, right? Like our heart rate increases, we can get sweaty, and the body and the brain are communicating, but it also reinforces that stressful, negative neural pathway.
Yeah.
So in order to start changing it, and it varies for every person, it also varies based on, how large were the events or event that put you into that negative place in the first place.
Yeah.
So it really varies depending on person to person, but the biggest step is getting started.
So we're going to get more into like technology and biohacking later on, but for this present moment in breaking those neural pathways and forming new bonds, is there any, I guess, sort of healing modality or therapy or device that you find works incredible for assisting in this process? Obviously, nothing could take away the work you need to do it, but what's really strong at assisting, any technologies or therapies?
Well, to be honest, I think I would say putting yourself in a good headspace to start, because then you're going to be so much more receptive. So simple things like making sure you get enough sleep the night before, because we know that if you don't get enough sleep, it creates a host of different issues, but you're not going to have as clear thinking. You're not going to be as focused, and you're not going to be as positive. So doing some small things like really focusing on sleep and inputting, because we can also focus on the hardware at that time. So what you put into your mouth, your brain is your most consumptive organ in the body, and it uses about 30% of your calories. So if you are trying to get to a new mindset and a new place in terms of happiness and contentment, then you have to fuel your body and your brain the right way. So every piece of food I put into my mouth, I question, is this going to be promoting more happiness and better quality of life, or detracting from that? So also sunlight in the morning. I mean, we know that coming from living in Ohio, I mean, it's a very different mood when you have exposure to the sun, those vitamin D levels, the sun rays, nature. So really working on, instead of specifically a device, but, focusing on like your habits to put your brain and your body in at a better, more receptive and more motivated place to really change the way you think.
You said something, I think it was on your social media, that really resonated with me, that what you eat today affects your future self.
Absolutely.
And I love that. It's so true. It's so true. And even what you eat today, we're not talking about like future, like 5 seconds, it's here. We're talking about like years to come. So I thought that was very powerful. Okay, this might be a little woo, but how do you feel about the comment that your inner world affects your outer world?
I mean, well, that's essentially, what biohacking is too. It's changing the environment internally to change and externally to improve your health. But there's no doubt about that. I mean, your internal thoughts and your self-talk and your internal communication, that impacts every single thing that you do. If I came into this podcast room today in a really negative attitude because LA traffic is, insane and it takes forever to get anywhere, then that would obviously impact my conversation with you, right? But instead, I come into podcasts thinking about how grateful I am to be in a position to be able to have conversations like this, and that it's essentially my work. I mean, that's beautiful. But I could easily focus on other things to really derail that mood. So without a doubt, the way that you feel internally, it bleeds into every other area of your life.
It really does. Like one area of your life, or you're like stuck or just feeling really negative, you see that same kind of, I wouldn't even call it pixie dust because it's a negative connotation, but spread in different areas of your life. So it's all very interesting to see. So you also mentioned, I think in one of your podcasts, something about ancestral healing.
Yeah.
I would love for you to speak a little bit more about that.
I love that we're living in a time of like ancestral practices and modern science, right? So if we think about how our ancestors lived, they were constantly in nature. They were always getting the benefits of grounding because they were sleeping, oftentimes on the ground or on an animal mat. So they're getting all these like healing frequencies from the earth. We know, I wrote a whole article on it for Vice, but we know that grounding has immense healing benefits.
Yes.
There was a study where there were like non-healing diabetic wounds, did grounding therapy, and they substantially healed over the course of like 6 to 10 weeks, depending on the severity. Nature bathing has been a practice for, years and years and years and years because it works. It's relaxing. It reduces anxiety. It promotes feelings of well-being. So these were all things our ancestors were doing. They were also, fasting at times because food was not always available. They were eating really high quality single ingredient foods. I mean, I don't personally ever eat a food that has multiple ingredients in it, unless it's a product, like you have bone broth, right? Yeah. So there's going to be single ingredients inside that, but I do not eat any processed, highly processed packaged goods at all, because that's not the way the human body was really designed. Yes. It's been made to be glamorous and fast and easy, but that's not really how food should be revered, I think. It should be much more of something you're super intentional about. I do a breathwork practice before I actually consume my food. I also pray before having my food. So it puts my body into a parasympathetic state to then better digest and assimilate the food. So I love that. Being in nature, rising with the sun. Our ancestors, I'm sure, had amazing circadian rhythms because they were waking up with the sun, getting sun into the eyes. It was telling their brains to wake up. It was anchoring their circadian rhythm. So every morning I get 10 to 20, maybe sometimes 30 on cloudy days, minutes of sun into the eyes, because it just signals to your brain, hey, it's time to wake up. They were not living on this constant cycle of blue light and screens and all of this. When the sun started to set, they would begin to get tired. Melatonin production would be jump-started. Whereas if you're being constantly stimulated by blue light and Netflix and television, then you're suppressing your melatonin. So that I love combining those practices. I mean, community. They were in tribes and strong communities because everyone depended on one another. That's not the case anymore. We're very like solo, out for ourselves. And even just the practice of doing something kind for someone else evokes better biomarkers for yourself over time. So it literally impacts the body in a very positive way, receiving and giving kindness.
No, it's so true. And it's crazy how detached we are from a society today. If you go to a restaurant, oh my gosh, I pity the couple that sits there and they're both on their phones. I'm like, why'd you bother going out to dinner?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But no, I love the whole ancestral healing diet. I'm obviously a firm believer in it. The cavemen also had bone broth.
Yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
it wasn't in cute little packages, but I firmly believe in using nature and using all of the animal to heal yourselves, the livers, what have you. So I thought that was really cool. And like what we could, if we could honestly really like capitalize, monopolize on the situation we're in, is use what the ancestors did and then pair it with all this really cool modern technologies and everything we have come out, which
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about your routine. And, you told us that you just have your new kind of like biohacking house. I want to hear what you're most excited about, what's going in there, and then we'll talk about more general stuff outside of your house and your routine.
Well, first of all, I'm so excited about my new house. As I said when I came in, it's very on brand for me.
I love it.
So first thing is it's like totally in nature. It's literally surrounded by nature. Every single room has a massive window that's actually a door, so you can just step out
No way.
at any point and you're immersed in nature. Our backyard is like 4 floors of jungle. And so literally I can just go outside 1 floor and I'm immersed in nature. So I love that. We also selected the home because of the way that the sun rises and sets. So from essentially 11:30 or noon, we have full sun exposure until about 6:30 p.m. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
So it's so easy to feel just really to do everything, to ground, to make contact. I have an outdoor shower. So I'm literally showering outside, which is unbelievable, like in this jungle feeling. So great nature benefits, great sun exposure. And I really love is like private and quiet. But then like home health optimization is so exciting for me. So actually when my husband met me and I showed him my place, I knew it was either going to be a quick in or a quick out.
Yeah.
Because I had like no seating even because I was working a lot. I just had like one chair and the home was just my apartment at the time was just filled with, he called them health robots. So I had a sauna, I had cold, I had red light. I had literally my entire kitchen. I had a large kitchen with all of these cabinets. They were all filled with like ozone generators and, like headbands for tracking meditation progress and supplements and peptides and anything that you could think of, like HRV monitors and just the whole 9 yards. So I knew he would either like love that or be like, what is going on? But in our new home, so a few things. First of all, I would highly recommend people work with a biological home builder. I'm just getting into that stage. So what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll assess your whole home. How is the wiring? I have several EMF meters and RF meters. So I go around the house seeing where it's like the highest. We have shut off switches for all of our Wi-Fi. So at night, Wi-Fi is completely off in the house. And then I also have, it's actually a Faraday cage around the bed. So this is going to block out all
EMF canopy?
Yep, exactly.
I just found this 48 hours ago.
Really?
I
Yeah.
literally just discovered it. And I sent the link to my sister. I was like, I need to get this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Safe Living Technologies is the one that I have. And they have an amazing, you could just go on there and start learning about home optimization.
Yeah, I think that's where I got it from because I was
good.
preparing for the interview.
Yeah.
And I found their website.
Oh, good.
That's
I love it. They have EMF blocking paint because let's be realistic, right? We're living in LA.
Yes.
And we have to be more concerned about toxin exposures, air quality than we would. I mean, eventually, I told you, me and my husband want to have like 6 kids. I want to have a home in the middle of nowhere, biodynamic garden, raise our own food, no EMFs.
This is like my dream,
goal, right? Yeah.
You guys need a roommate.
I mean, yeah, we could do like a compound,
right?
Because then we have like
a compound.
Community.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Community. We have a farm. We all,
Yeah.
have purpose with like the animals and the gardening. Then we have our own homes.
I love that. And we want to homeschool our children. So, everyone can pitch in. I can teach health.
I believe in the homeschooling of children too, with all the crap out there. Wait,
I agree.
We're on to something.
Yes, we're definitely onto something. Okay, so we have the EMF blocking, shielding around the bed. At least give yourself the time that when you sleep to fully heal, right? Sleep is made for restoration. So I, wear an Oura ring and monitor my sleep. Yeah, got one too. I actually keep it on airplane mode at night and then I sync my data later just to not have, the EMFs. But that's super important. So you should be getting about 1.5 hours or more of both deep and REM. every single night for, of course, better energy and just overall health in general. So no Wi-Fi at night, the EMF shielding, because even though we don't have Wi-Fi, doesn't mean our neighbor, like 10 feet over doesn't have Wi-Fi. Everything in the house in terms of blankets, bedding, and towels, everything is got certified organic. So it's a very rigorous level of organic testing. Even my clothes. So this shirt is organic. It took me so long to find this organic clothing brand. Not everything that I have, these jeans are not organic, but I'm working on it. But all my loungewear is organic. And then we have, water filtration throughout the house. We drink filtered water, ensuring there's no mold. I actually watched a few things with you, and you had some mold exposure.
I'm like a freak about mold.
Yeah,
that's my obsession.
It can wreck your entire health. It's really, especially too, I would guess that you probably genetically you might not have the strongest detoxification pathways.
My body does not methylate. So now I've been getting lymphatic drainage massages every week, which is also something in your house.
I do. Yeah, we'll talk about the tech in my house for sure. But ensuring there's no mold, because mold, especially if you're not genetically prone to being able to detox really well, can have a super negative effect on your health. So there is a test called the Hermes test. You can just order it and do it at home, or you can have someone like a biological home builder or, mold remediation company come out and do a just check, because mold can hide like in the walls if there was ever a water leak.
Everywhere.
It can be in like front loaders of washers.
Under the kitchen sink.
It can be anywhere in the bathroom. So it's really important not to be, getting mold exposure in your home. Because if you think about it, like your home should be your sanctuary. The carpets or any rugs that we have are no VOC. So even furniture, carpets, they contain volatile organic compounds, which can really wreck your hormones. So I go way out of the way to find companies that are just like 100% natural organic wool rugs.
Yeah.
None of the chemicals, none of the backing on the bottom. And let me think what else we got going on in the house. It's quite a bit.
This is amazing. I'm always going to forever refer back to this episode when I'm building the house of my dreams and be like, tick, tick, tick.
Yeah. So, it can go even deeper than that. Like we just ordered a new sauna and they did a little bit of checking on the EMF levels.
Yes.
I wasn't happy with it, and neither were they. So we actually resent it out and had it redesigned. And now we're getting a sauna that has literally the lowest EMF levels on the whole market, which I'm so excited
about.
So
I'm always in this conversation with people. You could be a great person to ask. And people always ask me, Melissa, infrared sauna versus like the old, barrel that's, just steam. And I always tell them I think, steam is best. A, it's a higher temperature, and B, there's like zero EMFs. But like what's your take on it? Obviously, some of the infrared ones, you could eventually get them to have low EMFs. But what's your take on both?
Well, we know that the literature is primarily done on standard Finnish saunas. So if we want to really just derive the protocol for sauna, then we should probably do it from the studies. That makes the most sense. I think infrared is incredible and I love it. And I'm excited for more research to come out on the differences or similarities between the two. The sauna I'm getting is, it's from a company called Heavenly Heat, and they have the best process in the whole world in saunas. I've done so much research.
I believe it.
So everything from the glues that they use, you don't want to be sitting, baking, heating up in a sauna with the wrong glues that are emitting VOCs.
Yeah.
So, and it actually has the capability to do the standard like Finnish sauna, and it has infrared built in as well. So you can switch between the two, which I really
that's
love.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, this is literally going to be like my catalog of things.
I know. I'm going to start hosting some little events and with all the biohacking. So we have red light, we have a sauna, our cold plunge will be there in about a week. I have a Balancer Pro, which is for lymphatic drainage. Been loving it, especially, I got a breast explant not that long ago. Really important part of the process is that was like the last toxic thing in my life, everything else is streamlined. So I'm so excited and I feel so good about that decision. But the lymphatic drainage is amazing for that. And it's great in general because it really helps your body to detox. So we have the Balancer Pro. I have Pulse XL PEMF mat. So PEMF is like grounding on steroids. Yes. It's all of those amazing benefits that you get from making contact with the earth. just in, like super, super timing. So I do that every day.
Do you meditate on there, or what's your practice with that?
A lot of times I sometimes meditate. I mean, I actually, I pray more. And that could be equivalent to someone else meditating or manifesting or whatever it may be, but that's kind of my thing. Sometimes I read a book. You don't really want to have metal on there, so I take off all my smart rings and stuff like that. But I love the PEMF. I have so many at-home diagnostics, so I'm measuring my grip strength every day. We know that's correlated to longevity. We have like a small workout area, so I used to have a gym membership. Now I just have all the workout equipment I need at home, and then I work out on the deck in the sun, and I love it. And then I have several different red light devices. So the panel, I have the face mask. I have like medical grade red light lasers. That's like for spot injuries.
No.
So like my husband has a couple of, just like joint aches and pains. So he uses that all the time. I have ozone therapy at home. So I make a lot of ozonated water, which is good for the gut and really good for the oral microbiome.
I remember like a year or so ago, you and I talked about ozone therapy. We should for sure touch upon that after we go through your home. It's mental notes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ozone is amazing. I'm trying to think. We have a lot of like little things, like a lot of meditation, essentially like trackers. So the Muse, so it'll help you improve your meditation practice through like real-time feedback. We have a lot of HRV devices. I have a V-Light, which is intranasal red light therapy. So it actually goes to the brain. That's a really fun one.
That's so cool.
Yeah. We have a NanoV, which is great for reducing oxidative stress and improving, essentially boosting DNA repair. I love that. I wrote a book not too long ago. It'll be coming out soon, but I use the NanoV just like all the time while working. It just is a little nasal cannula. You stick it on and it's amazing. So we have that. And we also are getting kind of finalizing. So I had a hyperbaric chamber that I used all the time at my clinic, which we still have. But now that, I'm living out here, I'm just kind of finalizing which hyperbaric. But that's definitely a big part of my routine. And I love that. So I got to finalize which one, but that's like the last missing piece.
How do you decide what to do in a day? Your home is Disney World for adults.
It really is. When I met my husband, he's like, how do you do all this every day? I'm like, honey, I do not, because it would take up my whole day. I would get nothing else done, So no, I have kind of a system and things that I do daily. I have things that I do weekly, monthly. And then I have, some things that are just there in case, let's say one of us is feeling ill, so we can do ozone therapy, which can help kill viruses. It reduces inflammation. It does all these amazing things. So some of it's like backups for when we need it too.
Wow, this sounds so cool. So, you obviously started this amazing longevity clinic. You have a ton of inspiration. So your clinic, you started out in Ohio and now you've opened one here, or take me through your whole clinic and what people could find at the clinic.
Absolutely. So I co-own the clinic with my business partner who is based in Ohio. We opened it about 3 years ago, and it's been such a rewarding journey because first and foremost, we focus on precision medicine. So we're running tons of labs there, like, a couple hundred biomarker lab panels, Nutri-Evals, which is like a nutrient status testing. So we can all guess what supplements that we should take, or we could just test our blood and it could tell us. So then you target your supplementation based on what you need. We do a lot of hormone testing, like the Dutch test. We do tons and tons of GI testing. So it's actually stool testing, not the most glamorous thing, but the gut is the foundation of health. So if you can optimize the gut, everything works better, including the brain, because the gut and the brain are directly connected.
Yes.
So we do lots of precision medicine, functional medicine. I got a nurse practitioner from the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine. She was on staff with Dr. Hyman. We have an integrative MD on staff. So really just whole body root cause medicine. And we actually are able to heal people that way, which is so exciting. Then we have executive health, which a lot of individuals that want to reverse their biological age and, just improve their cognition. So that's a ton of fun. Inside the actual clinic, we have a multi-person hyperbaric chamber, which is great.
Wow, that's so cool. Multi-person.
Yeah, I actually
community in the hyperbaric chamber.
Yes. My husband and I's first date was in the hyperbaric chamber.
Stop. You're like, this could be my husband.
Yeah, I knew. Well, and I knew too. I'm like, well, I wonder what he's going to think about having a date in a hyperbaric chamber for the first day. But he was all in. He loved it. So
Wait, that's amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, you created the neuro pathways for you guys called each other in.
I mean, absolutely. So we have a hyperbaric chamber. We have cold therapy in the form of cryotherapy. We have PEMF at the clinic. And then we have something amazing. It's an ozone sauna. So this actually combines all the benefits, cardiovascular benefits, life extension benefits of sauna, but then it has ozone. So it releases CO2 in the first few minutes, which opens up your pores for the ozone to seep in transdermally. It also has frequencies that are emitted through the feet, and it has red light, infrared light inside of it. So there's about 10 therapies inside of the sauna. And the sauna is actually about 7 times more powerful at detoxing than even an infrared sauna alone because the ozone is so powerful.
Wow, wait, is it the Hocat?
It is, yeah.
I did that when I was detoxing from mold. So I'm like crazy. I'm like zero. I'm all in or all out. So when I was detoxing, I'm like, let me throw like the kitchen sink at it, and I discovered this Hocat, and it's an insane piece of technology.
It is, yeah. It's amazing. I mean, I do that I was doing it, like once a week when I was in Ohio, but that's why we need to expedite opening a clinic here because I need all of my other tools back, I mean, I have most of them at home now, which is amazing, but I love going into the clinic. We do. So the ozone is unbelievable. We have great results in terms of detoxification because we measure it. We look, here are your, the total tox burden. It's probably something you kind of did. So it tells you molds and mycotoxins. It tells you environmental toxins. It tells you PFAs, all of these toxins in our environment. We know that we were not really built to withstand the toxic burden that we're experiencing today. And over here in the US specifically, there are so little regulations around these toxins that are put into beauty products, into our food. I mean, glyphosate is a known carcinogen and it's sprayed over everything. All conventional produce is just doused in it. And then when, a conventionally raised animal is eating that glyphosate pesticide covered food, you're just getting it from every single side. So that's why reducing your toxic burden is so important. I do that test twice a year and I have the lowest toxic burden we've really ever seen. I mean, typically someone would come in and have probably 10 to 20 toxins in the high range. These can also be heavy metals, which we know are major contributors to neurological disease, like lead and aluminum. We'd certainly want to get those out as fast as possible. And then most people have about 10 to 20 in the high range, 10 to 20 in the medium range. I have 2 or 3 in the medium range. So it's really something that
really shows the audience if you have 2 or 3 and you're someone who's extremely regimented with diet and all your biohacking and detoxing. So it just shows you how strong it is out there. And there's a lot of people that don't even know that they should be detoxing, low and slow at all times.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's the environment we live in today, right?
Yeah.
Just traveling, just being outside in LA, getting out of the car, or even in the car. I mean, there's VOCs in the car because of the materials. So it's super difficult. And I mean, it's really a testament. I have 0 in the high range, which is amazing. It makes me happy. And that's why eventually when I just live in the middle of nowhere, then
when
then it's going to be so much easier to reduce the toxic burden. But it's really actually so sad because these things that women specifically love and make us feel good, like fragrance and makeup and hair products, all of these things. I mean, I had to get rid of everything. I think a really great resource for people is the Environmental Working Group. So if you go there, you can look at their, I think it's called their Skin Deep database, and you can type in products and it will let you know their toxicity and why. So then you can start to learn about known, cancer-causing chemicals that are in these products. But unfortunately, they're simply not regulated. Like fragrance is protected by trade secrets, right? Oh, we can't tell you what's in it because it's our trade secret, and then everyone would do it. Well, that also opens the door for you to put whatever you want in it. So, and women are spraying fragrance their thyroid and, all over on their neck, which is right near their brain. And it's okay, these chemicals, it's so unfortunate that the government doesn't have policies in place to better protect us. But at the end of the day, that's exactly why you have to take your health into your own hands, which is essentially just the concept of biohacking.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast episode on the government regulated stuff and the medicine industry. That's a dark road.
Well, no one's looking out for you. You have to look out for yourself, and you have to do a ton of research. And, I recently opened this It was the first time I've ever really launched any sort of product or anything like on social media, because I was just doing it because I loved it. And obviously I was making an income from like owning a business. But this female longevity community, it's like I made it because there's coursework that just shows you the ins and outs of everything, from nutrition to exercise to sleep to mindset changes. There's all of the resources there, and everything that took me, 10 years to figure out. Like, here's the beauty products that I use because, and this is why, and this is what they don't contain. And then there's support inside the group, which I love. Like, I love seeing women just support each other. And so often I'm asked on social media, like, how do you make friends in the industry?
Yeah.
Or in general, when we get to be adults, it's more difficult to make friends, right?
Yeah.
So it's a place that you can connect with other like-minded people. I have several like female PhDs pulling all the latest female specific longevity research. And then the other thing that I'm so excited about, and I just feel so honored to get to be part of this research, is we're going to start doing female human clinical trials on different areas that are missing studies for women. Because right now, the studies are all for men. And there's a few reasons why, right? Women have many more hormonal fluctuations, the possibility of getting pregnant, and menopause. There's many more cofactors. But I'm so excited. We're going to do our first studies around NAD therapy, which everyone is so excited about. But we don't have a ton of data on women and NAD therapy. So some questions I have, like, what could NAD's impact be on fertility? We know that infertility is such a big issue right now. What about menopause? Like, when women go through menopause, how can NAD supplementation, in what quantities and what frequency can that help to potentially alleviate symptoms? These are all things we don't know yet, but I'm so excited to be part of a group. And obviously I'll be working with a lot of PhDs on this to figure out what the answers are.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you're doing this. And there's so many pieces to the puzzle missing, and you're right, specifically for women. And yeah, the infertility rate is just through the roof, and it's no coincidence with all the chemicals and all these beauty products and what have you. So I think that's amazing. How could people join this community?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, kaylabarnes.com, and it just says become a member. Right now we're doing like a female founders rate, and it's only females. And I love that because I've obviously been posting health content for a long time, and I get a lot of DMs and a lot of questions, but Instagram comments is not a place to like make women feel safe or like they can be vulnerable, because there's always like a couple random men like giving their input in there. And look, I love men and respect them and support them, but I just wanted this to be a place that females could discuss female specific issues. And I'm so excited because it also gives me an opportunity to further connect. I mean, my content. It's really like gray square. Here's the information, taking like typically a scientific study or concept and making it really easy, which people love. But I'm excited to connect more like face to face with women too.
Yeah, that's incredible. Between that and the clinic. Okay, I would love for you to give top 5, obviously, I'm going to say top 6 because number 1, we already said sleep, but top 5 after sleep, number 1 things to help brain health that people could make this change tomorrow, and they could start getting rid of a lot of inflammation on the brain and clearing their neural pathways to manifest a beautiful biohacking house and the husband of their dreams.
Okay, so we'll say 6 because we'll start with sleep. Because I think sleep has to go first because it's going to set you up for success the next.
The competitive advantage.
Absolutely. Poor sleep, it's going to be very difficult to do all the rest of the things I'm going to list. Completely ditch processed foods and refined sugars. Only do whole foods if possible, and shop on the perimeter of the store because that's where all the whole foods are for the most part. Single ingredient items only. I would also cut out seed oils. I know this is a huge debate on the internet, but we want to really have those more nourishing oils like olive oil, avocado oil if you're cooking. So nutrition is a really big one. Get sun and start it early in the day. So as soon as the sun is out, try to get it in your eyes to really jumpstart your circadian rhythm and tell your brain that it's time to wake up, and that can improve focus later. 3 would be low-level movement. So make sure that you're walking and you're getting outside at least 10,000 steps a day. Aim for 10,000. The average American walks about 3,500 steps per day. So you can walk 1,000 steps in 10 minutes. So you can just figure out how to break that out. So let's say you're starting at 3,500, you need to hit 10,000. You can figure out the math to get you to a place. Basically for me, it's about 3 22-minute walks per day. And then I know what the goal is. So low level movement, super important. And then we need to include actual strength training, exercise training. So love strength training for men and women. We know as we get older, it becomes harder to put on muscle and maintain muscle. So put on really as much muscle as you can as early as you can, because that's going to make life a lot easier. Muscle is an organ, and it actually, helps to reduce inflammation. So that's another big one. And I would say if you really want to start changing your brain, put into practice either meditation, prayer, gratitude, something of that nature, because you have to start changing the way that you think.
I love that. And, this word biohacking, I love the word biohacking, and people, who don't know biohacking, they're like, Melissa, what the hell is biohacking? So if someone wanted to start with biohacking, what are like the top three? I think we could both agree on sauna, but after sauna, what are top three you would say someone who wants to get into biohacking to start with?
Get your labs done. So that can either be as simple as, a standard lab panel, or it can be advanced as lab panel, gut test, toxin testing, biological age testing, glycan age testing. I mean, you can go the whole gamut, but whatever you can do based on your resources and current interest level, test, because you need to understand your numbers and where you're at to see how you can optimize, right? I think another pretty accessible one is red light therapy. So we know red light is really incredible for boosting your mitochondrial health, and your mitochondria create your energy. So if you can improve mitochondrial health, you'll have more energy. There's also some research saying it's great for even mood. So I would say red light therapy is the next one. I mean, cold showers is also a really easy and accessible way to start. So we really only need about 11 minutes of cold therapy per week. And you can just start with a cold at the end of the shower. I mean, of course, you could get, a super expensive tub, or you could have a cold plunge like we'll have, but you can also just start with a cold shower. And that's going to help to release dopamine in your brain, which is your motivation and focus molecule. And it also can even help with turning white fat, which is more toxic, into brown fat, which is more metabolically active, helps you burn more calories. So those would be three things I would say to start with.
Love it. So I think, unless you want to add anything else, I think, I would be remiss to say, being called Beauty and the Babble, could you tell our listeners a little bit about the gut-brain connection and how stress could impact your brain?
Well, first of all, stress I think most doctors' visits, I think about 90% of doctor visits are related to stress. So learning how to manage your stress and optimize your nervous system is incredibly important. The gut is, like I said, it's the foundation of health, right? So we actually have neurons in our gut. Most of our serotonin, which is our happy, the broad understanding is it's for happiness, is housed in the gut. It's also our immune system is in the gut. And then our brain and our gut are directly connected. So they're communicating all the time. So if you have really bad bacteria or pathogens in the gut, or there's dysbiosis in the gut, it's going to be communicating that. And if you heal the gut, and really it's kind of I always recommend people see a functional medicine provider for gut testing, because there's a lot of consumer tests out there. But if you're going to invest the money, just go to a practitioner and have one, analyzed for you. So the phases of gut optimization though and it really depends if you have a pathogen, bacteria, or anything like that you have to get rid of. That's kind of separate. You have to address that first. But you want to kill anything bad. You want to balance the dysbiosis. Then you want to increase the beneficial bacteria. We have more gut bacteria than we do human cells. So we really are our gut is running our lives.
Crazy,
it's really
universes.
amazing. Yeah. And then the last phase is to, really seal or heal any leaky gut. You can do that with things like bone broth and colostrum. But that's kind of the phases. First, you get rid of the bad, then you even out dysbiosis, put in the good, and then seal it all up. So that's gut health optimization. But yeah, the gut and the brain are directly connected.
Best friends.
Optimize your gut and you'll most certainly improve your brain health.
I love that. Is there anything you would like to add?
I mean, I think we went through a lot today.
I know. I love it. So they could find you at Kayla Barnes. Yep. Is that a name that's here to stay? I know you just legally got Kayla Barnes Lentz.
No, I actually am just Kayla Lentz. So it's full. I dropped my own last name. My husband and I have to figure out what to do with that, because obviously, to the world so far, I've been known as Kayla Barnes.
And if you want a barn, why would you drop the barn?
So yeah, KaylaBarnes.com, and then my Instagram is Kayla Barnes too. So
wonderful. Thank you so much. This was really amazing. I cannot wait for our listeners to listen.
Well, thank you so much for having me.